If you're wondering what it takes to transition from being an intermediate to an advanced pianist, or if you're just wondering the things that really set an advanced student apart, then this is the video for you. I have put together my top 5 things that truly separate an advanced pianist from an intermediate player. So let's dive in. The first one, I've got to say, I think this is probably the most important, and that's showing the beginning signs of artistry. So what is artistry? Artistry is something like musicality. So we might be able to say, that was a musical phrase, or that interpretation was very musical. So perhaps musical means thoughtfully crafted and executed in a way that's pleasing in some way, right? But artistry takes musicality and it kicks it up a notch. So artistry is playing with a deeper underlying meaning and a conviction behind the notes, where a musical phrase might be crescendoed and decrescendoed well and given appropriate rubato and played with good voicing of melody versus texture. An artistic performance of that same phrase, it'll tell a story, it'll set a scene, it'll paint a picture. It takes the notes that make a piece and it takes them off the page and truly turns music into art. And it'll touch us in some way that is unique to that particular person who's playing. So of course, an artistic performance must be musical, but a musical performance isn't always artistic. Now, let's put this in perspective. I said an advanced pianist will show the beginning signs of artistry. So by advanced pianist, we're not saying that they're playing professionally. We're saying basically that they're an advanced student. So not every phrase is going to carry that much meaning or be that moving, but I would expect a couple phrases per piece to really stand out and shine and give a glimpse of this pianist's soul at the instrument. Speaking of artistry, this is an amazing book, and it's called Artistry, and it's subtitle Pursuing the Mysteries of Music Performance by Robert Demery and Robert Hamilton. Now, if you haven't heard of this book, I'd suggest that you check it out. There's some really cool stuff in here. We might go into more of it on the channel, but all about artistry. What do we got? About 200 pages, and it's a fun read, I promise. So check it out. Number 2, a modest grasp of efficient practice techniques. All of us only have so much time in a day, and if you've scoured the internet, you've probably realized that there isn't really a consensus about how much time that you should spend practicing every day. There are stories of Richter practicing for 12 or more hours in a single day. I have quoted Veda Kaplinski from Juilliard on this channel saying at one time, practice 2 hours per day, another time, practice 4 hours per day. Charles Cornell here on YouTube just posted a video about practicing, and he said to practice at least 1 hour per day. All of those numbers of hours work well for different people. The only constant is that we have a limited amount of time each day to practice. So an advanced student should be able to use that limited time fairly efficiently. For example, when do we employ rhythmic groupings in practice? How often? During what phrases? And what phrases are we going to devote to that? How much time do we spend working one phrase versus another phrase? When do we move to the next piece that we're practicing today? When is it okay to call it quits on one and go to the next one? What tempo today is going to be most beneficial for a phrase or for a piece? And you're not going to get caught looping your practice, right? The name of the game is efficiency. An advanced student should, most of the time, be able to choose the most efficient path during practice. It might not be flawless yet. There'll probably be some ways that we could continue to improve those choices. But ask yourself this question. Can I get as much done in 2 hours of practice today as I could in 4 hours as an intermediate player, or in 4 hours a couple of years ago? An advanced student should be able to say yes. Number 3, let's talk about pedaling. An advanced pianist should be able to show clean use of the pedal, and that's dictated by ear, not by the markings on the page. Obviously, we're talking about damper pedal. Can we change the pedal with no thud, either at the bottom or at the top, completely silent? And does that pedal change provide complete connection and complete legato when we want it without excessive blur? So does the pedal change fast enough and in the right place where we balance providing connection and sustain against excessive noise? And where we choose to change pedal, this is the important bit. Where we choose to change pedal, is it thoughtfully considered for both the sake of the melody and the harmony? I don't think an advanced student is going to have a great ability to half pedal or fractional pedal or flutter pedal. Those would all be left for the next tier beyond being an advanced student. Same with understanding how we might best use finger sustain to aid pedaling with the foot. So hint, hint, advanced isn't the end of the road, in case you didn't get that from the first 2 points today. If you're looking for some new music to play, or if you're looking for your students, I have a treat for you. Over on my website, I have a whole bunch of original piano solos that range from intermediate to very advanced. I have perfect encore arrangements for you as a teacher or as a concert artist, or just as a great challenge if you want one. So on your next visit, use the code Pianist Academy and get 75% off one piece of sheet music. Enjoy practicing, and now back to the video. Number 4, an impeccable sense of pulse and ease of rhythmic subdivision. An advanced student should be able to keep perfect time with a metronome, of course, but let's go further, okay? An advanced student can also maintain an exact pulse at a particular beats per minute, and that can maintain it without a metronome, and that can still be perfectly in sync with a metronome should it get turned back on. So yes, basically I'm saying metronome precise inner pulse. Usually that also goes hand in hand with the ability to subdivide beats into the most common fractions. So if we have a quarter note pulse, can we subdivide into eighths and sixteenths, and maybe even 30 seconds? Right? If that pulse is slow enough, can we do 30 seconds? Can we subdivide a quarter note pulse into triplets or quintuplets? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, right? Or sextuplets. Can we maintain that inner sense of subdivision while we also focus on the large, big picture phrase? This is one of the keys to playing with musical rubato, and an advanced student should be able to do this. Last but not least, number 5, technical development that's capable of performing a great deal of the repertoire, a lot of the repertoire. If I were to put some levels on this, I'd say everything up to and including RCM level 10, also about Henley level 6 to 7. Now, I'm not saying that any of that repertoire will be easy, but that it'll be attainable with reasonable practice. What's reasonable practice? At this stage, probably 3 to 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. What's not reasonable practice? Years of practice. That's not going to be reasonable. And I'm not talking like 1 year. I'm talking 2, 3, 4 plus years on a single piece of music, especially if it's only a couple pages long. Now, some examples would include any of Bach's preludes and fugues from the Well-Tempered Clavier, Beethoven's sonatas that are found in Opus 2 and Opus 10 would be good examples, a handful of Brahms intermezzi, Liszt's Liebestraum No. 1, the Debussy arabesques, and Clair de Lune. Now, the pieces that I just listed, they're just a small part of the repertoire, I know, but I tried to give some important examples from a variety of periods. So what exactly is technical development? I'd say, can you play without risk of injury? Can you play without excessive tension? And can you play at the appropriate speeds that are required for these pieces? It is really hard to quantify that. So we can do our best by looking, for example, at the RCM technique requirement for level 10 scales, for example. You need to know all your major and minor scales at RCM level 10, played in 16th notes up to quarter note equals 120, among other things. That's just part of it. I usually find that RCM's requirements are actually not advanced enough to facilitate proficient playing of the repertoire that's at that same level. So just to take scales as one example, because they're easy to talk about, I'd probably be looking for all major and minor scales at closer to quarter note equals 160, not 120, with the idea being that if we can execute common technical challenges that we find within things like scales and arpeggios, not only scales and arpeggios, but things like them, the repertoire is going to be easier to learn, and we're going to be able to bump up our tempo more quickly because our playing mechanism, fingers, hands, wrist, arm, it already understands the language. So there's my 5 things that separate advanced pianists from intermediate ones. If you enjoyed this, I'm also going to be continuing this series with a couple more videos separating professional pianists from advanced students, and also what separates the greatest concert artists from those of us mere mortals that are professional pianists on the planet. I'm Szczepanek, and you've been watching Pianist Academy, where we make elite piano concepts simple and attainable. If you're looking to level up your practice and make it more efficient, I have the perfect video for you just over here. Practice smarter, not harder, and I will see you next time.